Hey everyone, it's Katie here, and I'm here with the wonderful Reverend Courtney Armento. Hey Courtney, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Katie?
I'm fantastic. Courtney is so much fun to work with, and we're here today to talk about something that's kind of a challenging topic, but we hope everyone will just stick around to the end of the video because we're partnering together to talk about something that's even more on my mind right now in the middle of a pandemic. And so what we're talking about is actually domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And Courtney happens to be an expert in this area. This is somewhere a topic that she has a lot of passion about and she has a lot of knowledge about. And so we're here to kind of give you a little bit of information about like what you may not know that you don't know. Does that feel about right, Courtney?
That's it. Exactly.
It,
Yeah.
it's so tricky because I thought I knew a lot more than I actually knew before I met and started working with Courtney. So, Courtney, tell us a little bit like what's the number one kind of common mistake that you see people making that they may not even know they're making when domestic or intimate partner violence becomes known to them?
Well, one of the things is that folks are uncomfortable with this topic in the first place, right? And so they haven't spent a lot of time on their own education around it. Not only that, if they are clergy, seminary doesn't prepare us for this type of work. And so,
Word.
right?
Yeah.
So folks tend to lean into what they've heard before, which becomes cliches, right? They
Yeah.
tend to lean into these cliches, like, why didn't you just leave, right? That's a big problematic statement for so many reasons, right? One, it puts the onus on the victim to have made a decision about the abuse. Um, which everybody probably thinks, well, it is their responsibility to take care of themselves and get out of that space. But what people don't understand is all of the complexities around leaving a domestic violence situation.
Yeah. So
Imagine
from point A to point B, there's a lot of midpoints in between there. It's not really A and B, it's probably like A and double Z.
exactly. It is not a linear process, it isn't straightforward. Imagine if you were married to someone and you've established a life and that person that you're married to sort of controls the finances, but you were okay with that at the beginning. And you have this wonderful house, and you have a car, and your kids have school, and they have relationships, and you have friendships, and you're uh, part of a family, your husband's family, right? Um, what happens if one has to leave, right? They leave all of that behind in most circumstances. And then it's like, if you're in a position of having no resources and no access to the money, which is then financial abuse, right?
Right.
Common. Um, who do you talk to, right? There is no safe space, no safe, sacred space that has been created for people to go and have conversations about what's happening for them. Um, outside of a shelter,
Right.
right? Most people think that um, shelters only help individuals that live in shelters, but that's not true. Shelters have so many resources available to anyone who needs them, including financial assistance, um, legal resources, and safety planning. See, leaving has to be strategized specifically,
Yeah,
right?
it's not as simple as just packing a bag and walking out your door in most circumstances, right?
Here's the other part to that. Most individuals experience a fatality, or
Mm.
fatalities are higher when people try to leave. And
So
so it
that's
is
the most dangerous time.
exactly, it is not an easy situation. So when
Yeah.
people leave, they leave behind their life, their things, their experiences, their
And
identity, like
and
so,
relationships too, that are complicated,
exactly.
right? Yeah, so I can definitely see the question feels natural to an outsider, like why don't you just leave? Can I help you just leave? But it's a lot more complex than that. And so I think this brings me to question number 2, which is, the statistics are really startling and not everyone may know those statistics. So let's see if I have these right. Um, the numbers that we know of people who will or are experiencing domestic or intimate partner violence are 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men,
Yes.
1 in 3 teens.
Yes.
And then when we get into sort of sub demographic numbers, they fluctuate a lot, and there's some we don't know. And that this can happen in all communities, LGBT communities. It can happen to men, to women, in marriages, in committed relationships, in boyfriend girlfriend, like
In
absolutely anywhere. Friendships, yes, and friendships as
friendship.
well. So with those numbers are alarming, and it's easy to just kind of pass them by. But what this tells me is that someone in our community, and whoever is watching this in your community, is experiencing this, and you may not know it. So Courtney, why is this so hard to see? Why doesn't it make itself more known?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for that, Katie. One of them is that there's a significant amount of shame and stigma around being on either side of the equation of abuse, right? I think we've seen in the news that abusers receive more support, right, than survivors of abuse. Those are the ones, right, that are targeted and made responsible for what happened to them.
Okay.
And so there's so much shame and stigma, and we haven't created space. And so that is that sets us up for a great deal of silence around this issue. Yeah, we haven't created space for it. We don't talk about it openly. It's a taboo topic, right? And we are comfortable in society with some level of violence, right? It's part of our normative culture. We see it in movies, we listen to it in music. Nobody calls it out. Even if there's a movie or a series that deals with abuse, there's no like disclaimer at the end to explain that this is never okay, that this is problematic, that something needs to be done, and here's a number you can call. It's just laid out there. And youth and young adults tend to sort of mirror what they're seeing in their homes, in music, in film. And if we're not sending a message that this is not okay, they feel like it's okay, right? And one of the statistics that we didn't talk about is 2 in 3 children are exposed to or experience trauma.
So they may witness the abuse, they may hear it in another room.
And what happens then is that because this is cyclical, right? Those that experience or witness as children this abuse, they either become perpetrators or victims later on.
And it's what they know.
Exactly.
It's what they know. And so the good news is that there is good news, right? Yes. Courtney has 50 hours of how many?
40.
40 hours. Mm-hmm. But I know it's 40 times like many because you've done so much training around this as well. So Courtney has been trained on how to be a sensitive responder. And she's been teaching others how to be a sensitive responder. So we do have good news, and I have witnessed people make transformations around their understanding around this topic. I'm one of them as well. I had no idea how much I didn't know before we started talking. So what are some of the most beneficial ways that people can make a difference, like right here, right now?
One of the most beneficial ways is to get some level of education around the nuances and the complexities of abuse, to be sort of educated in the ways in which abuse is insidious and how it shows up, and why is it the best kept secret, and what do we do when we see it and how to see it, right?
Yeah.
And then
learning the red flags.
Mm-hmm. And how to respond. And then creating space for folks to feel comfortable coming forward. I'm trying to create something that doesn't yet exist, right? Sacred, safer space to say, this is happening to me, right? And so we have to be patient because people won't just run up and say this. But I've noticed, Katie, when I have preached on domestic violence, that people have come forward and they have felt comfortable in that moment because I created the space by speaking on it, right? Not being silent. I think perpetuating silence in this particular category of human experience is so detrimental, right? And we can create space by preaching on it, by making resources available. But we wouldn't want to do those things without the education around how to support and respond and journey with folks who do come forward, because
Yeah.
it's easy to harm folks, right? With the cliches that we were talking about earlier, if you don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if we don't know what to look for, we'll never actually see it.
Right.
I think that was my biggest learning curve. I didn't know what all of the, I knew what, what the big signs are.
Yeah.
Everyone watching this is going to be really familiar with a big sign, but it's the little ones that require our vigilance, require our attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things that you had alluded to, Katie, is that the statistics are underreported.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're probably higher
They're
than
higher.
The ones we gave.
And those are more based on physical abuse. And
Right.
one of the things that I really focus on is the psychological and the spiritual and the physical, and I'm sorry, not the physical, but the financial, but the psychological abuse is really where I focus my attention, because that is the insidious, hidden
Right.
abuse that people sometimes don't even realize they're involved in.
It's really hard if you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. So others can help create safe space and give people the space to come to their own empowerment.
Yes.
To make
Yeah.
choices for themselves, and it's really powerful to be a part of. Awesome. Well, let's tell people just a little bit about what you've created, which is really amazing, and so honored to be a part of it. And Courtney has put together a 5-hour class on around this topic. This is specifically for church leaders, clergy, lay, anyone who feels they are guided to create safe space. And absolutely anyone can do this. And so we have this 5-hour training called Unsilenced Domestic Violence that's really geared towards helping you recognize the signs, learn about the cycle of violence, learn how to create safe space, learn how to take care of yourself in this process. So far, no one has gone through it that hasn't had some insight about their own lives, about patterns, about all of a sudden they see patterns that they didn't see before. And so, Courtney, what else should people know about this experience that they're going to be embarking on?
I think one of the things that I really want to share more than anything else is to not be afraid of the content.
Yeah.
To not be afraid to embark on this education. It is not a traumatic experience to go through the course. I don't have images or videos in the course that are jarring. It's a very nurturing course, I would say. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You don't require people to self-disclose or go into their own traumatic past if that's not what they're wanting to do. So it's really invitational.
Yes. And gentle. Like, we do get to the heart of the matter, but not by, forcing people to look at harsh things.
Right.
It's a very gentle experience of learning. And so that's what I want to clarify and share, that folks should not be afraid of the content. And because this is an online journey that an individual can take in their own homes,
yeah,
they don't have to engage with others in this space, and they can take their time and go through the content, and they have access to me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Questions, right?
Definitely.
That I will have time with you in a live space where folks can actually come in if they are so inclined, or they can send their questions to you, and we'll make a way for them to get their questions answered, because I'm really passionate about setting the next generations up for success so that they can navigate out of or decide with an informed mind that a harmful relationship or a toxic person is something that they can now opt out of, because they have this awareness, right?
Yeah, people can make different choices.
We can set our younger generation up for a whole new way of experiencing healthy relationships. And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. And that is the good news. That's Jesus' work.
Yes.
That's being done. So yes, we're inviting everyone to consider this as an option for yourself to really find out what it is you don't know, become empowered to empower others, create safe spaces, learn about what these cycles are, how they're self-replicating, and where you can enter to stop these cycles, to be a part of breaking these cycles for today and for tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you for all your work around this, Courtney. It's always good to speak, and I'm just excited about bringing people into this new cycle, to the cycle of peacefulness.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Katie. You're such
Awesome.
a wonderful, wonderful director in this
Oh,
space.
I'm so excited to partner with amazing people. So this is fantastic. So awesome. All right, well, it's good to talk to you, and we'll see everyone online.
Sounds like a plan.